Round one, fight.
You wanna go? You wanna fucking go?
Come fight me.
Put it on. You know, I'll fucking.
I'll just hide in a bubble, right? Smash has a bubble block, right? You get a little bubble.
Yeah.
Learn how to play so that I can beat your ass.
No, I'm just gonna keep shooting my fireball at you, and you're just gonna stay right
Hadouken!
over
Hadouken!
it. Because I'll figure out 2 or 3 moves,
And then just
or
spam
like
it.
a move
Just
and a
spam
combo,
it
and I'll just
over and
spam
over.
it over. And
Yeah,
they're like,
I'll down B spam you to hell.
keep them in the air. You just keep uppercutting them, and they can never come
just
down.
Roll back and forth very fast. It
Or
is
you do-
a viable strat.
I'll just beat you in real life. I know where you live. So on tonight's episode of the Trash Guys, we're going to be talking about fighting game tournaments, all the like. Guy and I aren't very big fighting game players, which is why we made sure this week to bring on board a special guest, Miss Jen Tendo. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Jen Tendo. I've been playing fighting games. Well, if you count Melee as a fighting game, since I was like 2 years old. I have been really involved with the fighting game scene. It's been a very big interest for me for a very long time. I just watched all of Evo this past weekend, and it was very exciting. And I'm going to SmashCon tomorrow. I really should be packing right now, but you know.
Someone
Instead
forgot that we were doing this tonight.
I might be playing Melee right now.
You actually were playing, like, no joke. She was playing Melee while we were setting up for the podcast. We were in a call and getting everything ready, getting this overlay ready and everything, and she was just like grinding out Melee, you know, just prepping for the tournament this weekend.
She's like, I'm practicing right now, guys. So you do all the heavy lifting right now. I'm just gonna sit here and twiddle my thumbs on this.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say.
I assume you play on controller.
I
Right,
do.
so-
I do. You guys
so
want
the-
to see my controller? It's actually really cool.
Actually, yes. I'm
is
very
it like
curious.
is it like a custom controller?
Yeah.
Oh
it's a
shit!
Sailor
Play on a
Mars.
GameCube controller?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. You know, okay. I don't watch too much. Like I mentioned earlier, you guys are way more into this than me. Like I don't keep up with it. I know none of the players. I don't know shit. But I have watched some like little clips, you know, obviously on TikTok of some things, and then I see these players with like these old ass controllers, like that they managed to hook up to play these games. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh fuck.
Oh, are you talking about like
Like-
the arcade sticks, like the boxes and stuff? with all
fight-
the
Yeah,
buttons?
yeah. Like old school arcade. I'm like,
Oh, I can show
there's
you
no
mine.
way.
You have one as well. Of course you do.
What?
Of course you do.
No.
See, this is why we brought her on board, because like Guy doesn't know fighting
It's
games.
really
I
heavy.
only know them as a spectator. Jen competes. Jen actually competes using
This
these
is
kinds of
a,
controllers. And it's-
I believe it's a Hori, or it's a Mad Catz. It's a Soul Calibur special edition that they released for PS4.
It's an arcade controller.
It's-
yeah, it is. Well, I mean, I guess to sort of like get started, just a brief history of like fighting games, but a lot of fighting games originated from old arcade cabinets, and those were like the type of controllers. You'd have like the stick and all like the little buttons and stuff, and each button there were like light attacks, heavy attacks, things like that. But yeah, I know this because if you've ever gone with your mom to the coin laundry while she does laundry, they always have these old ass arcade machines, and it's always games like Street Fighter, Fatal Fury on there. I think I've seen I think I saw one with like the original Mortal Kombat on there as well, or something like that. But just really old school games, because that's kind of where people started originally playing, right?
Yeah, and the arcade scene is coming back in a big way with like the arcade bars like Round One and other ones like that. And actually, Greg and I went to one with our family, and we got to play Street Fighter Third Strike on like an actual arcade machine. And they
That's
also
like-
have them at SmashCon, and like it's like a huge, like it's just like a love. Everybody has a love for this kind of stuff, you know, that like it's invested.
I'm a big supporter of like video game preservations, and so seeing the fighting game community sort of like lead the charge in terms of keeping not just like arcade cabinets, but even like the original control scheme like alive and sort of modernizing it with all these like new fight sticks and stuff is really cool to see.
Now,
Yeah.
I'm going to ask, just because, what is the benefit to having one of the old school controllers? And to kind of elaborate, like, I've played fighting games on arcades. Like, I know the feel of it. Like, I don't know if those are different, but like, when I play like on a controller, like let's say old school, I think it was the GameCube. You have one right there. Like around the
Mhm.
joystick, it's not a perfect circle, right? It had like
Right.
edges, so you
It
could
has
like
notches.
you could
Mhm.
feel, right? Like in each direction, especially with like combo moves and stuff like that. Like
Mhm.
anytime I would play a fighting game after that, that was just very smooth or on like old arcade controllers, it was very hard to feel like, oh, you gotta go like diagonal right, left up down, press whatever button. I was like, I was so terrible with combos because like I couldn't ever fucking get the feel of where I was. Plus, you know, controllers get that ghost shift after they get old. They kind
Oh,
of start,
dude, the drift.
The
God
yeah, the
damn.
drift.
drift.
Oh, don't get me started
Thankfully,
on that.
cross my
Well,
fingers. I've never
well,
had a GameCube controller drift
yeah,
on me.
we'll have a shit on Nintendo episode someday.
Yeah.
So do you like the old school like controller, or do you prefer to have like
So
the notches where you can feel it?
it's kind of a tricky question because nowadays, especially like Street Fighter 6 just dropped and it's a very new player friendly game. Whereas like a lot of the old like Street Fighters and Tekkens and everything has not been like there has been a definite skill gap in those games. So usually the players that have more experience will use the fight sticks as opposed to pad, which is what we call controllers. Um, like the PS4 controller, etc. Um, and it allows the fight sticks used to used to be like way more of a skill gap because the fight sticks allow um, more precise inputs with the circles because you're actually doing circle like inputs in Street Fighter and Tekken and like the 2D and the 3D fighters. Um, Whereas in Smash, it was more made for the directional inputs with the notches.
Right.
So in Street Fighter, for example, if you do like quarter circle back, I forget which. I'm a Chun Li man. I should know this. But if you do quarter circle back in an input, then it goes a Kikoken, which is her projectile.
Yeah, I don't blame you for like struggling to remember because if you've ever like played a fighting game for more than a few minutes, especially like more traditional ones, the like inputs needed to pull off like certain combos or special moves or things like that is insane. Like it's just I don't know, man. Like I'm a button masher. That's how I play fighting games. So,
I know
so
this
I
came
can't
up
remember
a
that.
couple. Sorry, I was just gonna say I know this came up a couple podcasts ago talking about combos and button mashing and things like that. And I talked about playing against older generations, right? The guys, the dads and grandpas that like grew up on like Super Nintendo Mortal Kombat.
I remember
Bro,
that.
I played against a freaking dad, and he was like, "Oh, I played this guy fucking 20 years ago. Let me just bust out every single combo." I was like, "Bro, how do you
remember that? Yeah. How do you remember all the strings of inputs needed? It's insane.
Well, it eventually becomes muscle memory, which is a lot of the answer to like why like old heads will have all of this knowledge and like reaction because they have the muscle memory. Like for me, playing I'm not great at Street Fighter. I'm more of a platform fighter kind of gal.
Right.
With Smash and Rivals and things in that territory. But like for me, even like learning Street Fighter 6 and like I use modern controls. If you know anything about Street Fighter 6, that I'm so sorry. I use the Whoop controls. It's me. I'm the problem.
Oh no.
But like even now, like Kikoken is just muscle memory for me. And I don't know. Like combos have like it's just I think some people's brains are just wired to play fighting games because you like memorize like, oh, this is quarter circle back, heavy kick, or you know, something like that in that vein.
I'm the opposite because like I said, I'm a button masher. I can't remember all this shit. I think that's why I enjoy Smash Bros. Because of its much more simplified control scheme. Like you go in there and you insta-lock Kirby and just down B or Pikachu down B Thunder and like you win matches against noobs, of course.
I'm the guy that fucking everyone hates to play against because I'll figure out 2 or 3 moves
and
or like a move
just
and a combo
it
and I'll just spam it over and they're like, come fight me. I'm like, no, I'm just gonna keep shooting my fireball at you and you're just gonna stay
Hadouken,
right
over just spam
Hadouken.
every single time.
It
or
is
you do
a viable strat.
Yeah, or my favorite one, I got this one combo in Mortal Kombat where you can just like keep them in the air. You just keep uppercutting them and they can never come down.
Not what are they called? Those knockups? No, it's like there's a proper
Juggles.
proper fighting. Yeah,
Juggles? Ooh,
like there's
I
there's
love
proper fighting game terminology and all
So
that.
I'm gonna apologize now if I butcher any of that. I
No,
am
it's okay.
literally
It's a
You're
lot
learning.
to know.
Yeah, it is. That's why I'm like I like watching fighting games because
Yes.
of the skill needed to execute a lot of these combos and win matches. I could never be a fighting game player because, like I said, I'm a Pikachu down B spammer. But yeah, watching fighting games, watching other people kind of display that technical prowess. Is
I
really, really
tried getting into fighting games years ago, like just with Mortal Kombat. That was always like my main go-to one, just because I
Same.
like Mortal Kombat. And I remember one point I was like actually trying to like watch videos and stuff like that, and then they started talking about iframes and fucking frame by frame interactions and timing this. I'm like, I'm gonna go shoot some shit. I think I'm done. I was like,
Yeah.
nope.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Mortal Kombat is one of the more how do I want to say this? I don't want to say the word that immediately came to mind because it's
Easy?
mean. Yeah, it's like it's really easy
Damn
to
it.
get into and get some combos down. And like, fatalities are
Right.
iconic and like everybody knows how to do at least one fatality.
That's true.
Um
I played I main Cassie in
Mhm.
Mortal Kombat 11, and I learned how to do the fatality where she like rips apart your like intestines and then makes like a heart. in
yeah,
them.
Oh my.
I have Melina's memorized. Like,
Oh god.
I always played the ninjas, Smoke, Frozone,
yeah.
Scorpion. I
Did you
always
say
played those
Frozone?
guys.
Did you say
Frozone?
Frozone?
I
Fuck,
don't know they added Frozen.
don't
Well,
fucking
that's
worry
Sub-Zero.
about it.
That's from the
Sub-Zero, that one.
Incredibles. That's a Disney
Bro.
character.
It is a Disney character. You know what I meant. You guys all understood that I was talking about the Ice Ninja, all right? I told you.
Yeah.
My brain, no, not working.
Dude, imagine a Disney fighting game as gory as Mortal Kombat.
Oh
Oh,
god.
that would never happen.
I wanna
They won't
see-
even make Ultimate versus Marvel Capcom 4.
I want to see Mickey
Marvel vs.
fucking
Capcom.
rip Elsa's head off. That'd be so satisfying. But what were you gonna
Sorry,
say?
the Disney won't even make Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 4. I don't think we're ever getting that. Especially because Marvel characters are owned by Disney
actually-
now.
So actually, yeah, good segue into like another topic I want to discuss. One really cool aspect about fighting games is a lot of the crossovers that happen. I feel like more than most fighting games have this sort of culture ingrained where you have guest characters and crossovers and stuff like that, and I feel like it's really really
Mhm.
cool. I wish more game genres did stuff like that.
Yeah.
Didn't Mortal Kombat do a crossover with like DC?
Yeah.
Yes.
They-
They're
yeah,
doing
okay.
it now. They're gonna
Oh,
add
they're doing another one? Oh, okay.
Yeah. With Mortal Kombat 1, they're adding like Homelander and John Cena, I think. Like stuff like that.
Yeah, Omni-Man. I saw that
Okay,
Yeah.
as well.
okay, this is where I get frustrated. Why do I feel
Mhm.
like there's been 7 Mortal Kombat 1s? Why
There's
do
been
they
2.
keep like it just bothers because you had Mortal Kombat and then you have Mortal Kombat 1 and then whatever and now you have Mortal Kombat 1 again. I'm like,
It's because
Yeah.
they keep
It's a
reboot.
they keep resetting the
Yeah.
franchise. This is like the
so
third,
it's the
second
same
or third
game
time.
or is it like a
Yes.
new storyline or
Yeah,
like
it's a new
does anyone care
storyline.
about the story? in fighting
Raiden's
games?
not the god anymore. It's what's
Liu
his name?
Kang.
Yeah. So now
Liu
it's
Kang
his
became God.
universe where like they're resetting, they're making like Melina a princess, which is really weird.
So
Lots
is
of
like-
that just in the game? Like it's obviously not canon for like
Mhm.
the Mortal Kombat. It's just how they're taking the game
It's a new
story.
canon.
Yeah, it's just the new canon now. It's the
Yeah.
new storyline, new timeline. They're weird when it comes to their like timeline stuff. Like I said, this is the second or third time they've done that.
Because
Yeah.
I've always wondered, like, it's not like we're getting fucking Mortal Kombat movies out like we get fucking Fast and Furious, right? But we're
Mhm.
getting Mortal Kombat
Mhm.
games with new stories. Like, fucking this. I'm like, are they just making up new stories for the games? Like, it's just
I don't
they're
know.
only interested in the gaming industry now. It's just one of those things. Like,
Yeah.
Mhm.
a little curious about it. I don't know if you guys had more insight into that.
I
But
think
It's
like
just they're
Jen
changing
said,
the canon because Raiden's no longer the god, it's Liu Kang, and like they're changing the way that some characters operate, like with their stories and stuff.
Yeah, I
It's
was gonna
just
say
a creative direction.
I can't speak much on other fighting games because I don't really play them. But Mortal Kombat's like
Mhm.
maybe the one traditional fighting game that I am at least partially familiar with.
Mhm.
And I do know that the developers, they often create the cast, the playable cast of characters based off of like the story. And I think, and then Mortal Kombat has such a long history, and like I don't even know how many. I want to say like 100 characters that
Yeah.
were playable at some point. And so a lot of the times they want to bring back some characters, and there's just no real way for them to like include them in the game story-wise. So that's probably why they've like sort of just reset the timeline a handful of times, just to be like, oh, okay, this is different now, but hey, these characters are back. And that's kind of what we're seeing right now. We're seeing a few characters in this upcoming Mortal Kombat 1 game come back from like, what, 20 years ago? Like the 3D
there's
era
also
characters.
an unspoken rule across all fighting games that no character that dies is ever truly dead.
Yes.
Because they bring them back like it doesn't even matter. Except for M. Bison. I want them to bring M. Bison back.
Yeah, because I mean, like, imagine you main a character and then they die in the story and they're just not there the next game. Like that kind of, that kind of sucks.
Yeah, that would it blows.
So what are your guys? So obviously, I'm pretty only knowledgeable in the Mortal Kombat scene, but what are some of your guys' like crossover favorites or things that you've really enjoyed them combining the stories?
I still think that Smash is really cool for what it does. It's the most basic answer, but it's probably the coolest example of like a crossover thing. Like there's no story to Smash really, except for like World of Light, it was a story mode. Subspace Emissary was a story mode in Brawl. But like it doesn't really have any hold on like the canon to like any universe because you have Sonic and Snake in the same game, and they brought Sora, which like how the fuck did they convince Disney to do that?
There's a Disney character in a fighting game. Like, it's
and
crazy.
like it's just you have Cloud, Strife, you have Xenoblade characters. Everyone complains about the Fire Emblem characters, but I think it's so cool that we have so much representation from a game that wasn't supposed to survive in the West. Like,
true.
It's
why was it not supposed to survive?
Oh, I know. So, like, all right. So when Smash Brothers Melee was first in development, Masahiro Sakurai, the game director, decided to include these two Fire Emblem characters, Marth and Roy. At the time, Fire Emblem was a game series that was not available in the West at all. It was a Japanese-only release series. But I guess he wanted to represent that game series anyway. And a lot of people in the West, myself included, when we first started playing Melee, we were like, who the hell are these guys? Because, it's the Nintendo fighting game. You're expecting your Marios, your Bowsers and Links and Yoshis and all that. And you're like, who the fuck are these two like anime swordsmen? Melee, or their presence in Melee, drove up enough interest in the series as a whole that I think Nintendo took the gamble, and the next couple Fire Emblem games released in the West, and people liked it. People really liked the
Roy was actually
strategy
released
gameplay.
in Melee before his game was ever released.
Yes.
Which is really important to like lift Fire Emblem off the ground. It's the same with like Ness in Melee, because like nobody had heard of Earthbound unless you were like into really niche Nintendo things. Yes. And then Ness was put in Melee, and everyone was like, who is that? Yep. Who's this kid? And then they played Earthbound, and they became like me. And I love Earthbound. It's one of my favorite series at this point in my life.
I can't speak on other fighting games and their like crossover characters, but I do know that Smash has a history of elevating and popularizing, or even in some cases reviving, certain video game series just because of their characters' inclusion in Smash. Yeah. Like I know another example I think would be Shulk, right? From the Xenoblade Chronicles series.
Xenoblade had like no eyes on it when it first released for the Wii, because it released on the Wii at almost the end of its lifespan. And then they put Shulk in Smash 4, and everyone was like, who's the sword guy? Yep. Like, he has a cool sword, and he is British. I want to play that game. And so they released it on 3DS. I think they did it on Wii U. Although Wii U is kind of...
I know they made a definitive version of the game for Switch recently. Like, you can play the whole trilogy on Switch now.
I was going to say, I feel like the Wii U lasted like 4 months, and then it just disappeared off the face of the earth.
I love the Wii U. Smash 4 is my favorite one.
It's just, I don't know. It's just so crazy, because now I feel like how Basoda probably felt when we were talking about like other esports a couple weeks ago. Because I'm sitting here, you guys are listing off all these names and shit like that, and I'm like, who's that? All these games, all these people. I'm like, damn, I feel like I missed out on like a big opportunity, because I remember playing Smash, But like, if there's a character I didn't recognize, I didn't play him. I literally just was like, I want to play fucking Link. I want to play Pikachu or whatever the fuck I played. Right?
That's
Like,
fair. Yeah, I was the same when I played the original Smash Bros. When I was a
Mhm.
kid, and the reason I mained Pikachu is because I didn't know a lot of the characters when I was like 5 years old. Right? That's around the time when Smash released for the first one for the N64. I remember looking at these characters. I'm like, what the heck is a Samus?
Yeah, I first
didn't
learned that
know.
Samus was a girl because I thought she was a boy until I looked at her bio in Smash 64 and it said she
Her.
is this bounty hunter, and I was like, she's a
Yeah.
girl, and then
I
I
didn't
fell
know-
in love
I
I didn't
instantly,
know
played
and I
any of the
played
Metroid
Metroid.
games.
Like,
I
You-
played all the Metroid games. I loved Samus.
yeah,
Oh, you see, I didn't. I only knew from the original Smash roster. I'm like, I knew Mario, Luigi, Pikachu, Jigglypuff, and then I think like Link, and that was about it.
Mhm.
I didn't even know like Kirby or Fox. I had never played those games growing up.
Mhm. Yeah, like Smash is the reason that I became such a Nintendo fan, which is why my name is what it is at this point.
Nintendo.
You know, I love Nintendo, and I think, like, I know that Smash contributed to a lot of that because all these characters piqued my
Mhm.
interest, and I wanted to learn more about Ness. I want to learn more about Samus. I wanted to learn more about Captain Falcon, and like that's why
Yeah.
I loved F-Zero, and like, all these games hold a special place in my heart now because like I got to play as them, and the characters themselves almost inspired me to take an interest in them, and it's very special thing that I don't
Yeah.
think that we're ever going to get again.
So there is precedent of guest characters or third-party characters appearing in a fighting game that drives up the interest of the series that they're from. And like I said, Smash is the most prolific for this. I think, don't they have like a world record or something for most like crossover characters in a single game? Something like that. I think,
They
right?
have to because the Smash Ultimate roster is like 85 characters, 87
I feel
characters.
like-
I
and
think
I
is
feel
more
like
specific.
I'll look this up in the
It's
meantime.
almost at 100.
Yeah, there's a lot of characters in Smash
Bro,
Ultimate.
I feel like last time I played Smash, there was maybe like 40 people.
Yeah,
Like just
they
like 4 rows of 10 or 3 rows of 10. Like that was not that many. But I don't think I've played Smash since the original GameCube.
Yeah.
Like years
they
ago.
had everybody come back. Like the thing with the Ultimate was like everybody is in, like everybody, and
Mhm.
they brought back everybody from that was cut out in Smash 4. They brought back like everybody, and
Yeah.
then they added like Ken and Sephiroth, like for example. Sephiroth was a huge deal
Yeah.
because Square Enix, we didn't think that they would ever work with Nintendo again,
Yeah.
you know. And now they're also making Super Mario RPG, a remake of the game, which is insane, and it opens the door. And I feel like Smash was able to open that door or contributed to it at least a little bit, for the developers to work together and come together for this whole
Yeah, and like I said, that's kind of the whole point of crossover characters, not just in Smash Bros. Like I know there's a bunch of other fighting games that have had their crossover characters with the explicit purpose of driving interest in the series that they came from. You know,
Yeah.
like we have someone in our chat that said they started playing the Devil May Cry series because of I'm just gonna guess it was Dante's appearance in Marvel vs. Capcom. You know.
It was Virgil's, probably.
Oh, Virgil. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not familiar with DMC, but I do know, if you're
Yeah.
like a Marvel fan, you like Marvel themed fighting games, you're like, all right, I'll check out this MVC game. And all of a sudden there's all these new Capcom characters that you've never heard of. You pick up a character, start playing them. You're like, hey, this guy's pretty good. I like playing this character. And you start looking more into them. Like, what series are they from? What are their games like? When can I play it? Things like that.
It was
It's
one
really,
of my
really
first
cool.
exposures to Morrigan from the Darkstalkers series, which is also Darkstalkers is another really important fighting game.
Yeah.
And I would have never known about Morrigan or Darkstalkers or anything without like knowing what Marvel vs. Capcom was. Because I didn't grow up with Sony or Xbox or anything. So like watching people play these fighting games piqued my interest in those games enough to where I seek them out on my own, without my parents like buying a Nintendo console for me.
Right.
because Nintendo was the family-friendly console.
See, I would say that was the closest thing I probably spent a lot of time playing like as a kid, or like those hack and slash games like Devil May Cry, like similar. Like they have like those fighting mechanics, but you're just fighting the bots, the fucking game itself. You're not actually going against anyone. I did spend a lot of time as a kid playing like those styles of games, and those were fun. Actually had no idea that Virgil or Dantes were in that game that we were just talking about. The was it Marvel versus Capcom?
Marvel vs. Capcom. And we're never getting a Marvel vs. Capcom 4 because they would have announced it at EVO. Which is also, we should talk about this too. EVO happened this last weekend.
Right.
Yes.
I think it was the largest in-person recorded attendance for an esports event ever.
I mean, yeah, that
and
makes
I think
sense.
they were pretty close to beating. They were close, or they did beat viewership for the most viewed fighting game tournament or esports event ever, which is really important. It shows that the fighting game community still has life in it, and that nobody like went away like during the pandemic or after the pandemic.
Was this the first year that they allowed a live audience since the pandemic, or did they do it last year?
I
think they did
so.
last year.
Did they do
They
it
did
last
it last year.
I thought they did it last year.
Oh,
I could be wrong.
don't
I could be
remember.
wrong.
I only ask because that leads into my next question of why was this year such a popular year for Evo compared to last year? Like
Street
what
Fighter
was
6
different?
was dropped.
Let me look it up
Oh,
real
okay.
quick while you guys do that.
Because I'm just curious about like what other. So you say Street Fighter 6?
Yep, Street Fighter 6 just dropped. Everyone wanted to look at. They showed a lot of Tekken 8 trailers, which Tekken 8 is going to come out later this year, I believe. It's Street Fighter 6. This was the first time it was played at a tournament, like a major.
Right.
And everyone wanted to see like what the top players were going to do at this tournament, like Tokido, Daigo. Those are some important names.
Okay, I just looked it up real quick. By the way, they did do an in-person event last year.
Okay.
So with that in mind, I think maybe the reason why there were so many more attendees this year, it could be also because of like the lineup of games. You know, like you mentioned just now, this is the first major tournament of this caliber that had Street Fighter 6 playable at it. And I think just a lot of the other like choices. Didn't they bring back MVC?
Let's see, we had
They brought
Street
back
Fighter
MVC.
6,
Yeah, and that was hype
Tekken.
for. Go for it.
Sorry, I was just trying to talk about the list of the games. So we had Street Fighter 6, Tekken 7, Guilty Gear Strive, UMVC 3. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, Marvel
That's
versus
Ultimate
Capcom.
versus Marvel versus Capcom.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's a lot of
Yeah.
verses.
Marvel is one of the main draws at EVO. Everyone,
Yep.
the meme is "Wins Marvel" because
Wins
everyone wants to watch
Marvel.
Marvel.
Wins Marvel.
And people were even spamming that after Marvel was done. Like it's a really iconic game.
Yes.
It's really fun to watch. It kind of we did have a Zero Grand Finals. Zero May Cry.
Okay.
I heard about that, like the mirror matches and stuff. But like, what I wanted to just touch upon, because you mentioned something right there, how it's like fun to watch. And I think that's what separates fighting games from a lot of other esports, is that I think it's the simplest to follow along, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I know as an avid Overwatch player, like, goddamn, it is so hard to try and introduce new people to competitive Overwatch, just because if you don't play the game, there's so much shit happening. It's like impossible to try and follow along with what's happening.
It's the same with Valorant.
Yeah. And then you take fighting games on the other side. It's really easy. It's just two people beating each other up. You're right. Whoever's health reaches zero first, they're dead. They lose.
It's like watching World Star beat his ass.
Yeah,
And
it's like watching a UFC fight. Like you know what's happening. They're just fighting, and whoever goes down first loses. It's such a simple, easy to understand spectator sport, and it's so easy to get into because of that. And I think that's what helps elevate a lot of the viewership of fighting games.
I'd say that the commentary really helps with the understandability too of fighting games, because like if you don't know what's going on, the commentary is going to explain it.
Yes.
and it's really easy. It's just like, oh, let's say it was like a Chun-Li and versus a Morrigan. If Morrigan gets a one touch on Chun-Li, usually that touch will lead to a combo, and they'll explain that.
Yeah.
And a touch is like Morrigan gets a hit, and then you can like infinite or something, and they'll explain.
You pick up on the lingo a little bit more quickly, I feel like, watching fighting games.
Well, yeah, I mean, compared to like Valorant and Overwatch, right? The commentators will explain something, but by the time they explain something, you're either in the next round or you're on a different camera view of a different player, or it just jumps around so much from thing to thing. And so, like, you're hearing the explanation, but you're seeing some different. You're like, if you have no idea what's going on, you're like, what?
Yeah.
Who are they talking
And like
about?
in Melee, like the famous, I'm sure most of us have seen the Wombo Combo video, the famous Wombo Combo.
Happy Feet. Wombo Combo. I love that video. It's so
the commentators just scream.
Something.
Yeah.
It's a Melee video, famous clip, and it was a doubles match, and they just started like juggling somebody in between, and they just started screaming and just like they were like Wombo Combo, and like you didn't have to understand what was going on because you could just see like this person was getting absolutely demolished, and then
it was hype. It was hype.
Yeah,
and
it was hype.
I feel like fighting game commentators do an excellent job of bringing the hype way more than a lot of other esports. And like this isn't like a knock on something. Like, I'm just going to use Valorant as a comparison because I was watching some VCT matches earlier today. And the casting is really, really good. They do a great job of trying to break down team plays and kind of get the viewer to understand, like, this is what their plan was, this is what happened, and that's why they were able to win, stuff like that, right? But it's very, like, commentary in games like that is very analytical in terms of like what they're doing or what's going on or them explaining the game. Whereas if you watch a fighting game, because of how simple the spectator part of it tends to be, there are moments where they'll just like stop commentating and just like scream and just like yell because what they're watching is so cool, and they'll hype up the audience in doing that. And I feel like that's
Evo
just
Moment 37 is another
exactly.
example. Let's go, Justin! And then
it's just everyone's screaming.
Off.
Yeah,
Yay, Justin.
Okay, Justin.
Justin Wong, yeah.
We'll send
you guys
the
have to
videos
educate
after.
me later because I'm
Yeah.
We probably should have done this beforehand, but
it's
Yeah.
okay. I'm actually intrigued because like I think I mentioned it. We've talked similar about like productions and stuff like that in the past, Basoda, and I'm like looking at some like little clips and pictures of this event, and I think this is the nicest fighting event I've seen. Like I've told you this before. Like every time I see videos and clips of fighting events, it looks like they're in this little like back room of a convention center, just cement, and just people standing around like a rinky-dinky stage, like watching on a projector screen. This one actually looks like a fucking event. Like it actually looks really cool. Like big screens, like showing the players on them on each side, and big old screen for everyone to watch. I'm like, oh wait, this actually looks cool. Like I would have liked to go to this.
There are tournaments that have really like insane levels of production, and Evo, being the biggest tournament in the world for fighting games, never skimps out on any of that. But the reason why a lot of fighting games look like they were done in like someone's backyard is because often they are. Fighting games,
you were telling me they're like
it's
paid for.
Yeah, it's a very grassroots environment, more so than other games.
Sony just started backing Evo recently. I don't want to give a year because I'll be wrong, but it's a very new thing for Sony to be backing Evo the way that it is.
Right.
Even SmashCon is still very grassroots. I think it probably has no Nintendo support at this point because of what happened last year.
Right.
But it's also a really we could get into Panda if we want, but that's a kind of a different topic.
Okay.
But SmashCon is really like I went for the first time last year. I've always wanted to go, and I got the opportunity last year to go, and it was a very magical experience. They have like it's not in a stadium. It's at a convention center about 4 hours from my house. And they have like 4 big screens, and they usually have like losers on one side, winners on the other side, which is losers is just a bracket and then winners is a bracket. And if you lose in winners, you get sent to losers. But they have both of them going on at the same time. And then on the other screens, they'll have like smaller games, usually like rivals if they're running a rivals bracket, stuff like that. And they'll just have rows and rows of chairs, and then they have an artist alley, and then they have a concession stand, and also like a cosplay booth now, which is really cool, and I'm very excited for because I will be cosplaying.
What are you going to be cosplaying as?
I'm going to be Chun-Li, and Samus, Zero Suit Samus, because Zero Suit Samus is easy. But
you don't want to get all the armor and the helmet and everything?
I want to eventually, but it's very expensive and will take a lot of my time because I would like to make that myself.
Yeah, I'm like, I've heard that cosplaying is just, it's a big like money sinkhole, but it looks cool.
It is, and I'm very excited. Actually, Tyler and I are going to be Chun-Li and Ken because of Evo Moment 37. We're going to reenact that, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we can get a place at the costume contest, because that would be awesome. And then Greg, my brother, is also going to be Guile, so we're going to be the Street Fighter characters at the Smash tournament, which I think is pretty funny. But
all right, well, looking forward to it. But yeah, like, so all the things that Jen described, I feel like a lot of these fighting game tournaments, because again of their like grassroots origins, they tend to be more like a convention that like features a tournament. You know what I mean? Like right now, again, VCT is happening in Los Angeles, right? Valorant Champions Tour. I don't think they have anything like that. As far as I know, it's kind of like going to a sporting event, right? You buy your ticket, you show up to the venue, and you have a seat that you can sit down and then see all the action happening. Yeah, they have like, I guess like, stalls where you can buy food and maybe souvenirs and stuff like that. But like, that's about it. There's like nothing else to do at a Valorant event except watch the players play Valorant. Whereas a lot of fighting game tournaments, because they take place in like an expo hall instead, or a convention center, there's other things to do, right? You can participate in a tournament and watch it if you want to, but like Jen just went over, there's a bunch of other stuff to do. You can look at art, buy art. You can join a cosplay contest. You can play friendlies with other players. You don't have to
sing karaoke with your friends.
There's a lot of cool things. It's more like I'd say it has more in common with like Anime Expo.
Yeah,
than it does,
and even like in the Smash aspect at SmashCon, they have a combo contest every year for Smash 64, which is a dead ass game, but people still show up and people care about doing these long combos in Smash 64 and watching them and supporting these like legends that are like really good at the game, and they still care, and it's really awesome because it shows that like no matter how old you get, you can always enjoy Smash and always be good at Smash, and or like even fighting games in general. Like some of these old heads that were playing Street Fighter 6 are like fathers.
Yeah,
they're dads.
Which is like, by the way, and just to like, I'm kind of like let Guy know, this is very different compared to like other esports titles, right? A lot of esports nowadays, the players are very, very young. They're in their teens even, because you need that sort of like reaction time, like that sort of like youth, I guess, to be able to keep up with a lot of these fast-paced games. But for whatever reason, fighting games as a genre is an outlier. And you have people that were winning tournaments 20 years ago that are still doing so nowadays, like today.
So what you're telling me is there's a chance I can still
go pro. Chance.
I can still go pro.
If you still want to be a pro gamer guy, fighting games is the way to go.
Okay. All right, put me on something. I got it. I got it. I'll
like
practice.
Someone in chat said, Daigo is a whole ass 42 years old.
Yeah, so
that could be my father.
Right. Jen, will you be my coach?
Yeah, sure.
Be a coach.
I'll be your I'll be your sparring partner. You can beat me up. I'll just spam down B again.
God damn it.
But yeah, like the chatter brings up, Daigo Umehara is a fighting game legend. We've mentioned this clip before, Evo Moment 37. We'll show it to you later, but basically what it is, it's a recording of this tournament. I believe it was Street Fighter Third Strike, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
It was a match between Daigo and another fighting game legend named Justin Wong. And let me see if I can try to explain the mechanics. Basically, Justin, as the Chun-Li player, used like a super move against Daigo's Ken, right? And the only way for him to avoid taking the damage, which would have killed him because he was on like 1 health, would be to parry every single strike of that super move, which was like 16 different hits. And to parry something in that game, you have to do it like on the perfect, it has to be frame perfect.
Mhm.
And he was able to pull that off. He was able to pull off 16 consecutive frame perfect parries to completely negate Justin's super move and then counter into the win. It was
Yeah, and he
one of the
countered it
most,
with
it's,
his own super.
it's one of
Light
the most
work.
insane thing. Okay, all right,
Light
dude.
work.
All right, dude. But the reason I'm explaining this to you is because Daigo, how old is that clip? Like,
Oh, it's like crunchy quality.
yeah,
so,
it's like what, 2004. I want to say something like that.
it's early 2000s.
Something like that, right?
Crunchy quality.
Very crunchy
Uh,
quality, like about
honestly,
2 decades ago.
My favorite fighting game clips are the ones that are the crunchiest in quality,
Yeah.
the shittiest recording, the
It's like-
pixels are, they can see the pixels on the screen.
It makes me think of like the memes you see online, like of like people that catch the most just random things like out in the real world. It's always in the worst quality. The best things you see are always in the worst quality. I don't get it. It's like,
We can
what are you
also-
fucking recording
Well,
on a flip phone?
Well, it's because this moment we're talking about took place before like live streaming was a thing and before like capture cards were even a thing. So the video is taken from somebody's camcorder that was in the audience just filming the screen
Camcorder.
projector.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's how old it is. And again, just to drive the point home, Daigo, who was the Ken in that video, is still competing today.
He is
Like,
one of the
he's-
pillars of Street Fighter.
Yeah, so
Nice.
it's
One of the
it's
pillars of fighting game community, really.
right. So it's just crazy how much
And
of
so
an
is
age
Justin.
range there is. Yeah, Justin Wong.
So
still
is Justin
competing.
from that clip. Justin Wong is like a very common name. He's more of a content creator now. He went like full content creation this past
Right.
Evo. But he's still very prominent in the scene. Everybody knows who he is. That if you watch fighting games, and he's beloved. And like that's the thing about these guys is that they were just guys that
Yeah.
loved fighting games, and they loved them so much that people started to love them too, and the
Okay.
games loved them back.
So
Yep.
speaking of players, I have to ask because I will never forget this name ever since it came up a few episodes ago. Actually,
Yeah.
early in the fucking podcast days. What does Mango play? Because I don't see this man's name anywhere.
Mango plays-
Mango,
Mango, Mango.
I'm like looking through all
Mango,
these top 8
Mango.
placements, and I'm like, I don't see the one name I recognize.
Let me tell you about the greatest goddamn melee player of all time.
Oh,
Actually, you know
is
what?
that-
Jess is
that's why I
excited.
don't know.
I'll let Jen say it.
Mango is the goat. He's just the goat. He is him. I got to see a Mango win last year in person at SmashCon, and it was the greatest
That's what it is.
moment
Yeah,
like I think of my life.
that's the equivalent of like whatever sport you're into. Like, let's say you really, really like, I don't know, the LA Rams, and you
Mhm.
go watch them in the Super Bowl and they win.
You just
Mhm.
picked the Rams out of all the teams you could have picked.
I'm in Southern California. I don't know real sports. The fuck you want me? Okay, I'm sorry. How about the
Bro,
The
you could've
Cleveland
been like-
Browns.
yeah.
You could have
Yeah.
literally been like, "Oh, that's the equivalent of fucking going and meeting LeBron James."
I
or
could have
fucking
also
any.
I could have
like,
also
big
said
name.
Oakland Raiders, but I don't want to sound any more Mexican than I already do. Okay, so just
Okay, fair.
This isn't the sports episode.
I was just asking because like I remember you guys hyped this man up so
Mhm.
fucking much, and I'm looking at all these top 8 placements. I was like, wow, this motherfucker's trash. He didn't even get top 8.
It is a
But
very
he's
real
not, he's not a
possibility.
smash, so that's
It's-
fair.
Yeah, it is a very real possibility that there will never be another Smash Brothers event at Evo ever again.
Yeah,
Sag.
it's so unfortunate. But you know, they're still putting on great shows with their own tournaments and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And we did touch upon like the grassroots nature of fighting games, but it's because of that a lot of them have continued to thrive. You know, most our fighting games are just now starting to get maybe like a support from their developers and whatnot. Smash is never going to have any of that, but they're still able to put on events because of the
So-
community.
So why is that? I feel like a lot of games in the past, say 8 years or so, have like
Mhm.
quickly gone to the competitive scene, like through their like
Dev
getting on the
support.
scene.
It's
Like,
support from the
So,
developers. And
Melee is a 22-year-old game.
mhm.
It has no online functionality, which is we have to, in order to play online, like I was doing while we were setting up the podcast. I have to use an emulator, and somebody named I can't remember his name right now because I'm fake. It's like Fuzz or Fuzz. I'm so fake. I'm sorry. I'm so bad with names. I'm like name blind.
You're
But
good.
he
You're good.
developed something called Slippy, and um, I can
It's a
hear myself.
program. It's a program that lets you connect to other players. It's a net
Fizzy.
play thing. Yeah.
hmm.
Fizzy is his name.
Yes, Melee is also. It's one of the Smash Brothers games that have. It's just the subtitle. It's how we differentiate between
feel-
each different Smash Bros. Game.
I feel like an emulator on a fighting game would have to be like the worst thing ever, only because, like you mentioned earlier, like things have to be so frame perfect, and
That's where
emulators
rollback
naturally
comes
have
in.
such a fucking like
Yeah.
lag,
Yeah,
right?
That's when rollback comes in.
You want to explain how rollback works real quick, Jen?
So rollback is, I'm going to be really bad at explaining this because I have no computer knowledge or tech knowledge. But basically, instead of using a delay-based system like Ultimate Online, it does real-time. Like it reads your inputs real time so that it can correct itself to have the correct ping um, against the person that you're fighting, and so it feels like you're sitting like on a couch with them.
Yeah.
I explained that really poorly, but it's the closest that you can get to couch co-op over the internet.
Yeah.
Stop screen peeking.
It's a very, very low latency network option that a lot of fighting games have begun implementing because it's so good. It's like I'm pretty sure it's gonna be the industry standard going forward.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
A lot of games are lagging on implementing it, like Dragon Ball Fighters, which is another fighting game that was featured at Evo, is just now saying that they're going to add rollback into their game that's been out for years at this point, and they haven't even announced a date for it, so it's going to be like sometime next year. Tekken 8, which is coming out, has no plans for adding rollback. And that's kind of crazy to like me and everybody that plays fighting games, because why wouldn't you add something that just makes your game inherently better?
Yeah.
When an indie developer like Fizzy that made Slippy made it into like Melee.
A 22-year-old game.
Yeah, so it's just kind of like developers are either like against it for some reason or they're just too lazy to implement it, which is kind of insane when you're like a multi-billion-dollar company, but I digress. But
Jen's getting emotional. This is serious business to her, I can tell.
I just like, Melee is really important to me, and I'm sure it's important to a couple people in chat, and it's
Melee
important to
is sick.
It's sick. It's my favorite game to play. It's my favorite Smash. I do say like Smash 4 is my favorite, but that's kind of just a meme because Smash 4 is garbage. But it's my favorite. It's the one I grew up with. I played it when I was 2, and to see Nintendo like going so hard to undermine everything about it is really upsetting. And
to be fair, I don't know why Nintendo's like this, but they're like that to pretty much everything independent. Like they come after influencers, they come after fucking publishers, emulators. They go after fucking anything and everything, and I don't get why. Like
It's
I
it's
never.
because
it's
they
just the
want to make
culture
the most
and
amount of
Nintendo.
money
Yeah.
possible. They want to make the most amount of money. They can't make that off of people making emulators or like fan games of like their old IPs like Earthbound, and they can't make money off of Slippy because somebody else made it, and Slippy is what would be preferred to be used for tournaments, but we can't use that, which is why I don't remember what it was. I think it was Genesis last year They couldn't use Slippy at the tournament because Nintendo would have DMCA'd them off of Twitch. And the video quality for Melee was so shit. It was almost impossible to watch. And like not in the good way, like Evil Moment 37 or like the Wombo Combo clip. It was just like really like blurry and like hard on, like I have bad eyes in the first place. It was really hard to like look at it and understand like what was going on. I believe that they fixed it later on in the tournament, but just discreetly like doing something under the rug. But like it's just sad because it's a great tool for not only practicing online for these tournaments, but also like streaming the tournaments and having the video quality be better. But Nintendo will be Nintendo, and we're never getting developer support in a way that matters. So
yeah,
what do we do?
I mean, it's unfortunate, but just they're gonna keep doing what they've always been doing, which is I mean, like the fighting game players, which is just to like put on their own events. We're probably never gonna get Smash tournaments with as crazy prize pools as some of the other fighting games. But I mean, as long as you got people willing to put in effort themselves and front up the money, then like this sport is gonna keep living on. I know Ludwig, who's a streamer I look up to a lot. He got his start as a Melee player. And luckily for Melee and the Melee community, he never forgot his roots. Even though he's like huge streamer right now, makes millions of dollars, all that shit, he still makes sure to come back and pay respect to his roots as a gamer, as a content creator. And I know that he has put forth his own money to put on some of the best Melee tournaments of the last few years.
LCS right? Is always a hoot.
Yeah, like, he goes all out when it comes to production value, and I would say that it rivals a lot of other like top tier fighting game tournaments. It looks very professional. The production value is great. Lots of commentary and stuff like that. And then the prize pool, he again puts forth his own money to always get his tournaments in like, he has a goal of like making sure his tournament, he has at least one tournament in like the top 10 payouts of all time for Smash Bros. Melee. I think one time he added like $1. He made his prize pool like $50,001 just so it would like stay ahead of another tournament.
Yeah. He even collaborated with Golden Guardians, which is an esports organization. This last, I don't know if it was the last LCS because I didn't watch it. I'm fake. But it was a couple LCSs ago, and he got to like use Golden Guardians like campus, and it was a really nice like venue for. It was an invite only tournament, but like it just shows that he like shells out for like, and he saved like when the whole Panda thing was going on, and Panda World Tour was a thing, and Smash World Tour was being canceled because of Panda intervention. He put on it was like the Trash World Tour, or he named it something like that.
Scuffed World Tour.
Scuffed World Tour.
I wish it was named Trash World Tour.
Yeah, and he put on a tournament while we were all like twiddling our thumbs, like what's happening to Smash World Tour, which is like the most important major cup in this game right now. And when it was a very real possibility that Melee would have died. And he revived like our spirits, like not only like the viewers, but also the like players that could go. And it was a very fantastically run tournament. It was very fun to watch. It was streamed on both YouTube and Twitch, and like it had a lot of viewership, and it was very cool to see like the love for Melee, like just it's alive. It's alive, and it will be alive. Mango once said when this was all going down as well, he was like, if Melee dies, it's not going to die because I'll be playing Melee in my head. Like, I'll find a way, and everyone's going to find a way to like play this game that they love so dearly. And I play Melee in my head. I'm thinking about Peach combos right now. Like, it's an ever-present entity in my life, this 20-year-old game that has changed mine and so many people's lives. It's very important. Very important.
So I get to kind of switch it up a little bit. I've always been curious about the fighting games that aren't like two-dimensional platformer style, like the ones that are more like arena style. I'm talking about where you can like move side to side and like.
Tekken.
Like
Is
Tekken.
that the style Tekken is? Because
Yes.
this is how clueless I am. I was like, I feel like every time I see fighting games, they're always like 2D, just head to head like that. Like, so
Mhm.
are there other ones other than Tekken that are like that, or is that really just like the main one?
That's the biggest one I would say
Yeah.
that's in that style. The only other one that I can think of that comes to mind right now is the Dead or Alive series.
Yeah, that and now it's escaping my brain.
I know there's like another one that's like relatively known. I guess not
So-
known enough if we can't come
Do
up with
Yeah.
it.
does that style just not like interest the community? Like, I feel like it would add more depth to the play style, but yet it doesn't.
I think it's more like just Tekken does it so well.
Mhm.
Soul Calibur.
Soul Calibur's the
my
other one.
Oh,
Yeah.
fighting,
okay.
my fight stick.
Yeah, I'm like I think it's kind of like Tekken just does that style so well that it's hard to really like innovate on it and add anything to it without just seeming like a Tekken ripoff.
So
But
it's that, and Tekken is really hard.
Yes.
Really hard to understand your combo strings, your inputs, your safe options because of all of the movement options.
Because
And it's really hard. I'm not good at Tekken. I mash in Tekken, if it tells you anything. And that's really not good because you can't do that against somebody that's skilled and like has a little bit of knowledge about the game.
Right.
And it's just really hard. And
Yeah.
Soul Calibur was that way too. Soul Calibur was different because it used a weapon system
Mhm.
instead of like a punchy kicky system.
Punchy
And the weapon system was really cool. Soul Calibur is unfortunately kind of really dead now. So it's really just Tekken. They did tease that they still are working on Street Fighter Cross Tekken, which is going to be Street Fighter in the Tekken universe if it ever comes out. Or they're still thinking about it, rather.
So I guess
But-
just to like simplify it, Guy, you are correct that
Yeah.
I think it's because it's there is a lot more depth to the gameplay in a 3D space. So
Mhm.
like we already talked about earlier how complex fighting games are with their combo strings and whatnot. So if you take something that is already very complex, you put it into a 3D environment, which makes it even more complex, then there's your answer. It just tends to be very, very difficult for a lot of people.
Mhm.
And it's just like,
Mhm.
you know what? Like, I'm just going to stick to the 2D stuff. And that's
Yeah.
kind of the
Which is
attitude about
funny because someone mentioned in the chat about Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm,
it.
and it made me remember that like a lot of those anime-based games, fucking Naruto, Dragon Ball,
Yeah.
fucking what was the one that came out years ago? It was like a mix of all the animes. It had fucking Black
Um,
Clover, fucking Naruto,
Something Force.
Jump Force,
Jump Force. Jump
like
Force.
that one did
Which
the
is
arena
shit, by the
style.
It
I
was.
played that for like 2 weeks. I'm like, I'm over it. But yeah, like all those anime games like are always like arena style. I was like, wait,
Yeah.
Yeah.
They just, like, own
the
that,
My
I
Hero
guess.
Academia one I picked up. It was fun for like 2 hours and then I got bored. I wish Jump Force was better too. I
it was
do wish
not.
was
It did not
better.
live up to its expectations at all. I actually tried to grind that game. I remember going through it, and I just felt so
Underwhelmed.
underwhelmed. Yeah. I
Yeah.
was like, I played it, and I'd get done playing. I'd be like, huh. Do I even do I want to play it again? Like, I gave up real quick on that game.
Yeah,
It's sad.
which sucks because like I remember these anime fighting games being kind of good. I don't know if it's because I was younger, but like fuck, dude, I remember loading up Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 3 and just having a good time, right?
Yeah.
Just on the what was it, PS2? Just those older consoles.
Well,
Just
If
having
it
a lot of
makes
fun.
you happy,
Yeah.
there's been discussion about I don't remember the order, but basically Dragon Ball Fighters is the new Marvel vs. Capcom 3 and it's just as hype. Like you should have, if you didn't watch the set, like the top 6 of Evo for Dragon Ball Fighters, I really recommend going back and watching it because the crowd was so hype.
Oh yeah.
I don't have like it was like they were screaming along to the intros. They were screaming along to like every time someone got a good hit, every time someone got a good hot combo. They were just screaming and it was just so so wonderful to see. Like the whole tournament was really wonderful. It was wonderful to see, except for Leffen winning GG Strive.
Oh yeah.
And it is just people love fighting games.
Fighting games are cool.
And anime games are coming back with Dragon Ball FighterZ being as hype as it was and as watched. It's becoming the new MVC3.
What was the one that just came out last year? It was like Dragon Ball fucking Goku something or some other shit. What was it?
Kakarot?
You actually went Kakarot. That one.
Is that I get
I swear
is it a
you
fighting
did.
game?
I don't know. That's what I wanted to ask. Like
I
you did.
think it's a story game.
It's like a single player experience.
Isn't it like
I think.
open world, but you
it is,
still do the fight, like one-on-one fighting? Is it not like?
Yeah, it's a story-based game. I think it has the same
I feel like
mechanics as a Budokai.
Yeah, I feel
that's what I was curious about. I couldn't get into it because I couldn't figure out what kind of game it was. I was like, okay, it looks like it has an open world story similar thing, but then I was like, oh, then it has like these fighting game like applications to it, and I was like, I couldn't wrap my head around it. I was like, okay, I'm not gonna put my money into it.
Yeah.
I think for something to be a fighting game, you have to be able to like fight other players, not just like NPCs.
That's fair.
Story.
That's fair.
I think it's kind of like playing a Pokemon game through like the main story and whatnot. You're fighting other trainers, only instead of going into a turn-based RPG battle, it's a like 3D arena.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about Leffen?
I know you really want to talk about Leffen, so
go ahead. Because
we'll talk. Jen has been holding back like since before we even started the episode. Okay. So I'll just
chilling.
I'll just give you some context. Okay.
Okay.
So, Leffen is originally a Super Smash Brothers Melee player. I'm not gonna go into the whole history of that because it's like way too long. But he's often been seen as like the villain of that game because he's taken down a lot of like the greatest players and have beaten them in tournament and to win a tournament, all that stuff. In the last couple of years, though, he started getting into a lot of other fighting games. And because of his personality, he tends to also kind of be a bit of a villain in those games as well. People just don't like the guy, right?
So,
because they feel like he's fake because he comes from Smash Brothers, and a lot of the FGC kind of consider Smash Bros. A fake fighting game, which is a whole other history in and of itself. But all you need to know is that the greater fighting game community doesn't really like Leffen. Even people in the Melee community don't like him. He's just not a likable guy, but he's really fucking good. Like, he's really, really good. And he has the, what do you call it? The skills to back it up, right? And he gets results. He wins tournaments. And so in this most recent EVO tournament last week, he's been practicing this game called Guilty Gear Strive. And just, to cut straight to the point, he won. He won the whole thing. And the people were not happy about it. I remember watching it back. And it was so bad that after he won, the production team cut to like a crowd shot. Nobody was smiling. Nobody was happy. Very few people were clapping, and they very quickly just switched back to like the main camera because they didn't want to capture the crowd because they were like, oh shit, they don't like it.
Is he a bad person like IRL, or does he just be everyone's favorites? Like, is he just good at the game?
I think he's just like toxic and cocky.
He's toxic. He tried to get like every time that he fights against Hungry Box, which is a buff player in Melee, he's always complains about the rule set. He's like, I need to watch that back. Like, he did too many ledge touches. Like, he's just bitches.
Just kind of a whiny bitch. Yeah, that's
are there a lot of rules in fighting games? Like when you fight.
No, the ledge touch thing wasn't even like relevant, and the stalling thing wasn't even relevant because Hungry Box wasn't even stalling. But I digress.
There's a timer in fighting games. How is there stalling?
I don't know. He huffs a lot of copium because in most of the times when he loses big matches, instead of just like GG, you played better, right? I need to work on my own skills. He'll find something about the other player or the game to like blame it on and complain about it. And it's just
there's a term in the FGC or Melee specifically called Johns, and it's called no Johns. Or you're Johning, and it just means that you're complaining, and he is the Johnniest of Johns.
Yeah, he'll immediately go on Twitter.com. Sorry, X.com now, but like he'll go and make like a tweet about it and just like get everyone riled up. You know, he's just that guy that's
So
just
he-
like really,
Okay,
really.
The
Yeah.
Twitter makes a lot more sense because
Yeah.
I see people like that in other programs that I watch that just like immediately are like, oh, yo, this, that, or those half-ass apologies, right? Like, oh, I
Yeah.
did my best, but you got to come in with the but, right?
Yes,
Like, get
that's
your
him.
side of the story.
So the
That's
scary
him.
part about Leffen right now is that he has won an Evo in Melee before, when Melee was at Evo.
Mhm.
And now he's won an Evo at GD Strive Evo. When he was excommunicated from another fighting game community for being such a whiny loser and also toxic to somebody, and he was like excommunicated from that community. And now he's in the GG Strive community, winning Evo with Happy Chaos, which Happy Chaos, for those of you that don't know, I think it's all of you, is a really broken character in GG Strive right now. It's not really broken in the sense that like it's Uber, but like it's really easy to just get juggles, and like so
Right.
he was just juggling the shit out of all
he's
of
the
these
kind
top
of
players.
guy that will like complain about the way his opponents play, but then bust out like the dumbest, cheesiest shit to win.
Yeah. So,
So
now
it's
that
like-
he has
yeah.
the Strive Evo win, he's in contention for fighting game GOAT status, which is very unfortunate for people like
Wait,
me.
is this like an actual thing that you just earn? This isn't like the community as a whole is like, yo, this man's a goat. Like, is the goat? Like,
I mean,
It's a bit of both.
it's a discussion that happens every year. That after
Because
Evo
for as
happens.
toxic as Leffen can be, you can't deny his skill in games. You
He
know,
beat-
I can deny him all day if he's gonna be the little shit that sits
Well,
there
you
and goes,
can.
"Oh, you can't play like this, but I'm gonna play like this." Like,
you could,
no,
but
you're
then
not
he'll
good.
he'll
What?
just shove his 2 Evo titles in 2 different games in your face. Like,
Yeah.
dude
Oh,
gets
that's
results. Dude
He
wins.
beat the Evo winner from last year
Mhm.
handedly.
Yeah.
Handedly.
He gets results, and like that's the thing. That's why it's like, I guess that's why he's really hated, because he's the villain, but he's a villain who wins a lot.
If you
I
want
feel
another
like
example of him
goat
being
is- Go ahead. Sorry.
if you want another example of him just being like a bitch at
Sure.
Leffen's, or not Leffen, Ludwig's tournament at one of them, he fought against Hungrybox, he lost, and then he hijacked the commentary stream for what was it, like 30 minutes, I believe. It was
Hijacked
something ridiculous like that. Hijacked it to talk about how bullshit the rules are. The entire commentary stream. It was just 30 minutes of him bitching. And, you know, it's
He is the opposite of Mango,
yeah.
which is I think why Jen and I don't like him. Whereas, you know, Mango is super cool and amazing and just the goat at the game.
Yeah.
Leffen, it just kind of has a terrible personality and attitude towards fighting
So
games.
how does he just keep getting like
Wins?
I don't
'Cause he's
know, like,
good.
They can't no
That's
like into these things. Like, honestly, if I was a event producer, I'd be like, nah, fuck you.
Because you
he
know
has
what?
tons and tons of loyal fans.
He
I used to love
yeah.
Leffen. I'll admit it right now. I used to be a Leffen stan. And then I started like opening my eyes to like what was actually going on, and I was like, "Oh, I love Mango so much. Actually, I'm
Mango's
a Mango
better.
stan now. Fuck
But
Leffen."
like, I think the reason, to answer your question, guy, is just like, you know, as an esports watcher that storylines make for good content, make for good tournaments. And, you know, if I was a TL, as long as he hasn't done anything like fucking illegal, then it's like, sure, let him go on. Because even if you don't like the guy, the other side of the coin is when somebody beats him, then it's like, hell yeah, dude. Then you feel good. Like, he's fucking knocked out of the tournament. He ain't winning this shit. And then whoever beats Leffen becomes a hero. And it's
he also
so
has
good.
had bans in Melee before. He's
Mhm.
gotten unbanned, obviously. He was wanting to step away from the game actually right now, or like, you know, currently in the last couple of years, he's wanted to step away from Melee.
Mhm.
But he has had bans before for the toxicity, and you know, like there was a whole thing between him and another Smash player, which I don't really want to get into because, you know, it's all kind of under the rug and you know,
That's
swept
fair, that's
under the
fair.
rug. But
I think what we should focus on is just like how much more intense the fighting game players tend to be, because
Yeah.
this all comes back to just the grassroots origins of like fighting game competitions. And I think because of that, there's a lot less professionalism. And I don't mean that in like a bad way, whereas like in any other esports, the players are very cordial towards one another, even if on the inside they're feeling bad or whatever. They don't show it, right? Maybe they'll go on Twitter afterwards, but in the moment they're fine, whatever. It's very clean cut sort of thing. But in fighting games, because there's not a team or an organization or anything like that, it's just one player on another. Things get very heated and very personal, and there's like whole compilations of like people getting very salty. Like you'll see people like smash their controller on stage after losing. There's this guy that like takes off his shirt and puts it on another player to like taunt him, right? There's people that fuck, dude, like even the crowd gets into it sometimes. I think there was one tournament where Hungrybox, another great Melee player, won the tournament, and then someone threw a live crab at him.
I mean, there's a salty sweet for
a crab. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a salty sweet where like,
so fighting game audiences and the pro players can be very unruly.
Y'all are wildin'.
Exactly. No, that's the perfect way to describe it is fighting game.
I mean, the crowd was
tournaments
very
are
fucked up. It was very fucked up. It could have like caused a reaction because some people are allergic to stuff like that, and
there's less sportsmanship in the fighting game genre, but I think that's what makes it really entertaining to watch, because there's a lot of heart in it as well.
Someone kind of mentioned it. I think it helps in the fact that they are just solo players. They're not sponsored. They don't
represent anything but themselves.
Yeah, so at that point, really, what's the old saying? Any news is good news, or some shit like that.
Yeah. And so that's
like,
why you
they're like, people hate me. They come, fucking give me content. They fucking do whatever. Like,
and that's how you end up with like villains like Leffen. But I actually think that's what makes watching fighting game tournaments so entertaining, is because you follow these players across their careers, and whenever they cross paths with one another, there's a story there. And you follow it, and it's, you got your highs and lows. And, Jen knows as a Mango fan, like, there's high highs and some low lows, man.
Scorpion Master, man.
Well, I mean, it's definitely easy. It's definitely easy to be super competitive, right? Because, like, there is no one else. Like, when you beat the one-on-one, it's you beat them. Like, there is no team. There is no, like, nothing behind you. It's like, I'm fucking better.
Yes.
Right? Like...
And people will do that when you'll see matches where the winner will get in the loser's face and be like, "I fucking told you!" They'll shit talk to their face.
I want to see some guy that lost to, let's say, Mango and Leffen. Fucking, there's just the names that are in my head right now. See, like, say Mango beat him like 5 times, and they're on their 6th match, and Leffen finally wins. He's like, "Oh, I'm the fucking best, bitch!" Like.
They do that.
I beat you 5 times.
They do that. They'll do that. There was to bring back Hungrybox as an example. He's very well known for his pop-offs when he wins. I think one time he won an online tournament during the COVID era, and he popped off so hard he passed out on stream.
Oh, geez.
Yep.
So he's known for his pop-offs. But there was one instance where he was playing against another player, and Hungrybox wins. He beats this other player. But that player, knowing Hungrybox's history of popping off, right before he officially loses, he does like a reverse anti-pop off. Like he fucking jumps out of his chair and he's just like, yeah. And he's just like yelling at Mango's face. And it's just like, but that's the guy that lost that is popping off. And he to count.
Cody Schwab is
I've actually seen, out of all the stuff I've seen from fighting games, I've probably seen those the most, is clips of people celebrating too soon. Or like they think they've won, and then the guy like gets back up and is fucking has like a sliver of health, and while they're out in the audience celebrating, he's just like, "I'm kick your ass real quick."
Yeah, it's a very heavy mind game. In tournament.
Is there anything else, Jen, that you would like to vent about before we call it for the night?
I think. Well. We don't really need to get into the whole Panda. Okay. I kind of touched on it a little bit with, like, Nintendo and Smash World Tour being shut down. And, like, that was essentially, like, all that we need to discuss about that. But I want to make a very important point before we end. With things like SmashCon, the most of the people that go to conventions like that or fighting game tournaments in general, you're going to go 0-2. But it is still really important that you are there and that you are taking part because it's you that makes the tournament. It's your presence and your hype and you're willing to like put yourself out there and compete in this game that you love so much. It's you that makes the difference and you that takes up the space, and you need to take up the space because you are also just as important as a Mango or a Leffen or a Hungry Box or a Zane or anybody like that. You are just as important even if you go 0-2. You are the people that make the grassroots possible with like your support and your support of the artists that show up to the artist alleys. And if you just go for the cosplay, like that's awesome. You're supporting and you're having fun and you're singing karaoke with your friends in a goofy way and you're watching the combo contest of all these old heads that just love Smash 64 so much. Or like even at Evo, if you're the people that went to Evo this year and the people that watched Evo online contributed to the biggest esports event ever. And like that's an insane statistic for a fighting game tournament with like old games like Marvel vs. Capcom 3, and even like Street Fighter 6 getting like, the amount of eyes that it had on it is really important for like the Street Fighter series. And it's a lot of love in the community. Like there's always going to be like the bad things that you hear about, namely like like the Smash community, the Smash Ultimate community isn't the most reputable in all of the scene. But even then, there are Smash Ultimate player. I'm a Smash Ultimate player, and Basura plays Smash Ultimate, and like we've all played Smash Ultimate at some point if you play Nintendo. Like let's be real. Whether it's at a friend's house, you own it. It's the love of the game that draws people together, and that drawing people together is like the magic of having a community like this. And being able to share like in our love for Mango and like his wins or the Zane stands or even the Leffen stands, like we all share the love for the game, and that's the most important thing. So it doesn't matter if you go 0-2 because you still matter and you're still making a difference by going 0-2. So that's all.
I love it. I love the
Well
yes.
said.
Give a round of applause.
What an
you make me want to go
goated
play
speech.
now. You make me want to go.
Yeah.
You better be in the first round though. If I'm gonna get 0-2'd by anyone, it better be one of you two motherfuckers.
So someone clip that speech. We're gonna use it to inspire new fighting game players. But yeah,
before
I mean,
we
like,
sign off, Masato, what would you say, like, if there's someone new wanting to get into like fighting games or like the fighting community, like where would you have someone start?
just play. That's it. Pick a fighting game that you think looks cool, looks hype, and just start playing it. Like, again, I enjoy watching fighting games. I'm shitty at them, but I do love the culture around it and the people that get so passionate about it. I run my own Smash tournament every year. I'm terrible at it, so I don't compete in it. I just commentate. But I run an open tournament for anyone to join. Because I think it's really cool and important to give opportunities to people that may not be able to attend those tournaments a way to compete in their favorite fighting game. Just like, Jen said in the chat, I'm an O2er and I'm proud, so just play games that you like. If you want to start playing a fighting game, pick something that looks cool and just start playing. Maybe we talked about guest characters earlier. Maybe, you're that weird guy that really likes Negan from The Walking Dead. Hey, they added him to Tekken for some reason. He's just there. So maybe you're like, all right, I'll play this Tekken game. And turns out you really like Tekken. Boom, there you go. New fighting game player made. And you just keep going. You just keep playing. And eventually you get to the point where Jen is, where you're going to these events and tournaments and competing. Even if you're not great, you're there and you're supporting this scene. And again, that's what's great. I think that's what really separates a lot of fighting games from a lot of other esports, is just the level of community and commitment that people have.
It doesn't matter how old the game that piques your interest is either, because there is always a community behind it. I mean, look at Marvel vs. Capcom 3. That game is old as shit, and it still had like peak viewership on Twitch, and like a lot of people competing in it, and it's awesome. And I just want to like throw it out there that like I've been washed up since Smash 4. The only tournaments I've ever won have been Smash 4 tournaments. I'm going to this convention playing 3 games that aren't Smash 4 and Smash 4. I'm going to go 0-2, and you
Better
know
get
what?
those
I'm
practice
okay with
hours
that.
in.
I played a couple games while we were talking.
Yeah, she was
I'm on
practicing
the
during the
grind.
pre-show.
But it's just there's always going to be community behind you.
Yeah.
No matter what you want to play, there's still a community behind Third Strike, and you know you've seen that.
That's an old ass game.
We're going to watch that clip, I believe, here soon, maybe. But it's an old clip, and it still has a community behind it. They still have Third Strike machines at SmashCon, at Evo, I believe. Like it's ever prevalent, and that's what's special.
Well,
Yeah.
I appreciate you both for, educating me on this whole realm that I had no idea about, or like no real idea about. Had a, the outsider's perspective, but
There you go.
definitely cool to get this information and understand it a little bit. Hopefully some of our listeners or viewers are getting the same appreciation for it. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I felt some strong emotions coming in this chat. I almost felt like this was the Jen and Basuda podcast today, guys. I was just along for the ride.
Well, I mean, now that you're educated, now you can pick a fighting game, pick a character, start learning, right? Pick a fighting game.
We could play Melee tomorrow if you wanted.
Learn how to play so that I can beat your ass.
Well, I mean, if you're having a Smash tournament, I got a Switch right over here. Might as well.
I mean, you want to go? You want to fucking go? I'll down B spam you to hell and back. Well, put it up. I'll fucking...
I'll just hide in a bubble, right? Smash has a bubble block, right? You get a little bubble.
Yeah.
I'll just beat you in real life. I know where you live.
Just roll back and forth very fast.
All right. Anyways, for all of our lovely listeners tonight, or Spotify listeners, or YouTube watchers, this is again the lovely Gentendo. You can catch her live over at Twitch.
Thank you for joining the podcast, Jen.
What is it? Jen_Tendo.
Yes,
right?
Jen_Tendo.
Jen_Tendo.
I play a lot of Nintendo games, but also a lot of Valorant because I hate myself. Actually.
Who knows? Maybe we inspired her to play more of her fighting games on stream.
So please go check out twitch.tv/Jen_Tendo, and that is Tendo with a 0, correct?
It is with an O on Twitch.
Yeah. Oh, okay, perfect. I was like,
wow,
we're really making this difficult.
There you go.
And we will see you guys next week, Wednesday, 9 or 9:30, whenever
or
we
10.
get here.
We've not been on time this entire season. 15 episodes, and we have not been on time. Whatever.
Dude, life sucks, okay? Life is life. All right, you guys are fine. We're fine.
Sue us. Whatever. I'll beat you up. I'll beat you guys up, too, in the chat if you make fun of us, all right?
Basuda is still on his little hiatus. I actually was supposed to be streaming tonight, but some things are coming. A lot of stuff has come up this week that's kind of messed with my stream schedule, so I do apologize to everyone. However, hopefully within the next month or so, things will do better, and I'll get on a more consistent schedule for you guys. Get that going. Other than that, we will see you guys on the next one, next Wednesday, 9 p.m. All right. You guys have a great rest of your night. Jen, thank you for joining us. We do appreciate having you.
This was really fun.
I'm glad you liked it.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.